listening to The Author's Message with Denise Joy and Irene Pro for lively discussions and guest interviews on authors, publishers, readers, and of course our listeners. Join us every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio. Here are your hosts, Denise Joy and Irene Pro. For the author's message. And on our show, The Author's Message, Irene and I are going to be talking about all things about all authors. And we're also going to be talking about the importance of not only the written word, but also the verbal and the audio of words and communication. So there's a lot that we're going to cover in each episode. And we're also going to be inviting authors to join us, to be part of our show, part of panel discussions, part of the dialogue, so that we can share with the world the importance of writing, sharing, reading, creating, because all of us have a voice. All of us can be seen and be heard. I'm Denise Joy, and I am an author. And with me is another prolific author and also a publisher, Irene Pro, who can share part of her background with all of you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Denise. Thanks for the wonderful intro here. I am a publisher. I come from the publishing industry. I have over, not to tell my age too much here, but I have over 29 years of experience in the publishing industry. I publish magazines. I have 5 magazines, 6 coming out, and I help a group of authors publish their book to have their voice be heard, seen. And today we're going to be talking about communication is one of them today with Denise. And Denise and I have been working together for a little over 2 years now, I believe. Correct, Denise?
Yes.
I had met Denise with over 100 authors, women authors. And from there, Denise and I have kept close, and we've been very good friends. I'd say BFFs, and we're business partners on a lot of different endeavors. So today, we're here to be a little more relaxed with you, let you guys know a little bit more about us. But if you want my whole bio here, I am a mom. I have 3 amazing children, 2 girls and a boy, and I have a house filled with animals, 2 dogs and 3 cats. And I love helping people bring their vision, their dream to reality, and having people a big part of that. I do sit and I do work with a lot of authors, compilers, get their voice out, their message out. And Denise and I are all about being seen, heard, and read. That's a big thing with us, is to be seen, heard, and read. Great marketing. And we're here to help you through and talk about different artists on a journey. And it's really a journey of the author's message, how you could be seen, heard, and read, and do it with expertise. And, I do consider myself an expert. I do consider Denise an expert. I call her the wordsmith. She is very, very talented, beautiful woman here who has many books out there. She's co-authored. She is an author of quite a few books of her own, and her one book that I absolutely love is Living Gratitude Daily, which just launched this month. So I love you guys to purchase it. It's wonderful. It's beautifully designed, but other than that, it's authentic beauty. That's the only thing I can say, Denise, right now is authentic beauty. And that's all about Denise Joy. So she has brought quite a lot of books to life and had a lot of authors' messages heard. So today is our first show, our first episode, and I welcome you all here. In the next couple of episodes, you'll be able to call in with Denise and I, and you'll be able to ask us questions of the day if you're struggling. Denise and I are here to help you. If you need a longer consultation, Denise is here to help you, and she'll be more than happy to make that work and set up an appointment with us. If you just want to talk about your book or your experience with dealing in this industry is good in a lot of ways. There is, I'm not going to not say it, there is some issues out there. And that's okay too, because we're here to help you resolve issues moving forward to get your message out.
So, as Irene mentioned, we are going to be providing support to those of you who want to be an author, who have questions about being an author, have questions about publishing, and also for those of you who are already authors. And one of the things that we want to do in our show, The Author's Message, is to provide a authentic, realistic perspective of how writing, being an author, no matter what genre you may be an author in, we want to provide information. And so when Irene and I were talking about doing a show together, we were thinking about the title. And we came up with The Author's Message, which in that, if you look at the word, the author's message.
Yep.
Because oftentimes, individuals who have a mess, right, who have an experience, who has had a situation in life, they share that mess.
Yes.
They're writing. And we may read the message of the author, and do we truly understand their perspective? And when we read something, we, from our perspective, our personal interpretation, we actually may take away a different message than what the author intended. And we want to sort of peel back, yes, it's a cliche, right? Peel back the layers of the onion with some of the authors who come on our show so that we truly understand their message, their intent, along with sharing our interpretation. So one of the things Irene and I talked about is when we have a guest, we have an author on, we want to have read all or most of what they've written that they're going to bring on that show and talk about. Because we want this to be a discussion of what might Irene and I as readers and what the author actually intended in regards to their message.
Yeah. And that is so true because, the author sometimes, depending on who's editing their books, their voice is lost. It's no longer their story, their message. And that's the best way I can describe it is, we're all not perfect. Okay. But sometimes being correct in writing and being so perfect in writing, sometimes you lose the author's whole voice. And you have to be very careful with that. And, I hope with moving with us further in other episodes with Denise and I, that you'll learn that. And that is a technique to not run into with other publishers, even with yourself. Don't lose your message. Um, and for me, that book reads truth. Is raw, and we don't want it too raw. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it just, I'll be like, okay, who proved this? And you got to be careful with that. So Denise and I are here to help you with resolving those certain situations. We're actually here to teach you. And as I always say, it's everybody has a story they want to tell. And it depends what perspective that author is trying to relate their message. And, I know a lot of famous authors, Denise does, and how to get that storyboard out correctly where people are following you. You could have it set up as a journal, but you need to make sure people understand that journal. You have so much information in that journal. Is it like love letters? So, and like I said, Denise is the wordsmith. So Denise will wordsmith it, and she's very good with that in the communication of your book. And, we're also here to help promote your book and teach you how to promote your book and how to get your voice heard as well as read and seen. And those are, great things that we're here to help you with, to help resolve certain issues that you do have. And believe me, we all have writer's block. And it might come on a daily. You might have to figure out different habits. And believe me, Denise and I have walked through all of that and dealt with anthologies where every author isn't agreeing, co-author does not agree, and it becomes a zone. And you want to how to handle that, and especially how to handle anthologies. There is a mess to that message, and Denise and I have figured it out, and it's one of our key secrets. So that could help quite a lot of authors out there, as well as poets. A lot of people don't think as poetry. Well, I'm a poet. I'm not an author. So we're all authors. The minute you write something down, you're an author. That's your content. It belongs to you. And those are, things that Denise and I will teach you. We will teach you, copyright law, copyright issues that, if you go to a publisher, depending on that publisher, do you own that copyright? Is that copyright yours, or does it belong to the publisher and you get commission from the publisher? So we have a list of things to help you with your mess to get your message out. So, and I'm looking so forward to talking about books and authors and their voice. And I have a few authors and that I've helped get their voice out, along with Denise. And, Denise has gotten, oh my God, Denise, how many authors over 365 days, because that's my recent one with you. But you're in quite a lot of different anthologies and different books out there. A big group you deal with is with women authors, who you're a big part of that, getting the message out. And you have quite a lot of books coming out this year yourself. that you are a co-author in, as well as you are the compiler. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand the difference between the two, and that's okay. And we forgot to mention to everybody, Denise is a #1 international author. So I do want to get that out as well, and she has, I'm very proud of her for her accomplishments. I mean, she's right there, and she believes in the author's message. And mess. She'll help you resolve that. We'll all help you resolve that.
One of the things, and Irene, you had mentioned that you have been in the business of publishing, writing, supporting authors for 29 years.
Yeah.
And I had not had that level of experience when I first started writing in anthologies. And I think that my journey in regards to being a published author is an example for other women and men. My background, I'm a therapist. I have 26 plus years in the military. And so I was not spending my time writing or even thinking that I would be an author. And then I was at a Wealthy Visionaries conference with Marsha Weeder, and I signed up during her conference to be in an anthology with her. And so that was my first experience, and it was like, oh, well, this is pretty cool. I can write about, at the time, I was writing about who I was then and some of the things that I was doing, which has totally changed in the last several years. But that first book was the stepping stone for me to be where I am, as you had said, thank you very much, #1 international best-selling author. I've compiled several books. I have been a co-compiler. I have also been in several other anthologies. Now, I have not written an entire book myself. I am not sure that I'm going to do that per se. I love the collaboration and the journey of being in anthologies and supporting other women and men in sharing their message.
Yeah.
And I think that society, as Irene mentioned, may look at the word author and have certain perspectives of what does that mean? Who can actually be labeled an author? Yeah. And as Irene mentioned, all of us have a message. And when you write it down, you authored that message. You may not ever publish it, but that does not take away that you wrote something intended to share your message.
Yeah.
And so we'll be talking about that. And Irene mentioned several other sort of like technicalities or logistics in regards to authoring that we will talk about, and also contracts. Irene and I both have found out how important, which, yes, all of us, once you become an author, you actually have sort of part of a business, right? There are business transactions that take place when you are an author and you are published. So we will talk about the importance of contracts and what that means to your work, to your message, to you having the your work actually published.
Right.
And, you know, the other thing that came to mind when we talked about interpretation and meaning is what came to mind, Irene, as you were talking, was also think about the Bible and think about how often the interpretation is specific to the individual or the
yes.
organization, right? What does the Bible really mean? If you go and read it, we can look at the exact words and we can read, and what just came to mind was, thou shalt not kill.
Yes.
There's not a lot of room for interpretation, I do not think, right? Thou shalt not kill, pretty clear. But we also know somehow people can take those words that were written pretty clearly, and
Correct.
not to get religious on anyone, but people come up with all sorts of reasons then why that does not mean exactly what it means.
Yeah.
And there's other examples in the oldest of writings and the oldest of authorship
Mm-hmm.
that people can interpret according to their own personal needs or agendas. And even when, Irene, you had mentioned about the tone and the emotion behind something, that we want to have emotion, we want to have meaning, we want to write things that are personal to us, but we also want to be careful about how much emotion or anger
Yes.
or stabbing someone in the back perhaps is included in our writing.
Right. And, be careful with names because you can be held liable. That's on the author, not on the publisher. So, yes, I agree with you 100% on that. You have to. That's why you want to send it to Denise. Like I said, the words.
Well, I'm not sure about that,
But yes, a lot of authors write today, and I don't know what it is. They write with anger, and you can't walk away from that. Don't send it out. Don't post it. And today there's a new language, and I hate saying it, but there is a new language. It's almost like I learned shorthand, and it is the new language of shorthand. We've never, in years past, put ... anywhere, and today that's acceptable in publishing. So, and you really want your voice to come through, but not angrily, unless it's for that specific description.
right. It's how are we using the emotion that we have about a situation to ensure that our point is getting across.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, if we're writing with too much emotion from that inner perspective, it doesn't come across in quite the right way.
Exactly.
And if people are seeing it as pushing them away or in an offensive way, then the message is lost. I mean, we can share emotion, we can share sadness, we can share frustration, we can share anger, we can share emotions, but when it is so overpowering,
Yep.
individuals can't handle that. And they take a step back and they're really sort of figuring out what am I supposed to get from this because I'm so uncomfortable in reading it. Now, as I say that, I don't want people to come back and say, well, Denise and Irene said we can't write with emotion. It's writing with emotion in a way. The emotion is experienced, but you don't push the reader away so that they lose all interest in the point that you're making.
Correct.
And I think in today's world, and not to get political on this initial show, though it's
sometimes. Well, here it is. We are going to be political due to the fact it's the mess of the author. And look, we're all artists. We're all emotional. But how to get that across to your reader, and that's where Denise and I come in. Denise is the wordsmith, and I use that freely with her because she is. It's like, okay, this just doesn't make sense. I'll rewrite it, you rewrite it, and and you want that. You need a sounding board and you need, before you even think of printing your book, you want professional eyes to look at it, not your best friend, because they're your haters. They're not your supporters, unless they're truly a friend that will say, look, you're not going out with me in those shoes. Or,
Right, because your friend who also, if they're going to tell you what good or does not look good on you, then that's a good thing. But if you're angry about something and your friend is also angry about something, then they're going to cheer you on to send out this angry message.
Yep.
Instead of a message that comes from a place of anger, but it comes out in a way that the reader can understand and perhaps can also accept the stand that you are taking. But if it's too angry and off-putting, then they're not able to accept what you're saying. So we want to help people have a balance of that emotion, the outpouring from their heart, right, from their mind, so that others can understand and not just, something hitting you in the face and you never get beyond that. Because that's what I've been hearing and seeing, right? And that's sort of what we're seeing in our media today, this outpouring of so much anger that sometimes I do not hear or see the clear message. And so now I can't take a stand for or against something that I am not clear on what is the point they're trying to make.
And how often do we read that today, Denise? How often do we read that? I mean, I just had read something the other day, and I'm like, well, even in our emails and communication, okay, look, I'm not a perfect writer, but I can be, right on target. And sometimes I think less is more, or sometimes if you're not getting your point across, you better rewrite that to make sure me, the reader, is going to take that correctly. And I think in writing anything, that is one of the hardest tasks that people have to overcome. And what I'm noticing is, you and I both hear this. People don't read. Well, we do read. Okay, we just read. I read in paragraphs. Some people read in sentences. Some people read word by word. But today there's a lot of anger. It's, I'll give you a scenario. Somebody was writing about women's pay today and how it affects all women of all race and color across the board. And they were writing about it, and it was anger coming out. It was very hard to, yes, we all understand that, but every paragraph was being bashed. There was no resolve. There was nothing in this to, okay, do I want to move this story forward? How, it's great at bashing people. It's easy at bashing people. It's easy to find the words to bash the people that you might be like, oh, no, that's not exactly what I meant. And you have to be very, very careful. So does this author understand that, yes, we understand you're angry, but you need to have an etiquette. That's the best way I can describe it. It's an etiquette. Mm-hmm. There's a certain way of writing it. Yes, I'm still angry about this because since the 1900s, women still are paid at a second level. Doesn't regardless of your race, women are still not paid as much as men. Well, today, women have a bigger voice. What are we doing about it? Besides pointing the finger, making noise, and not resolving it within our own community.
Right. And I think, with some of the opportunities that we as authors have today to share our message, then we want to, as much as possible, to frame it in a way that people can truly understand and act with us. Because you're correct. If I am reading something that lays out the facts of the situation, and there can still be emotion, there can still be frustration, but what are the facts? And sometimes we need to bring in the historical facts
Absolutely.
Things today are because of something in the past. Whether that past is good or bad, there is a past and there's a history. You don't start on day one and everything is perfect. So we have a history and we have facts.
Yeah.
And so now today, what can we do to make changes? And what should those changes be? And also, does everybody agree with it? I might want to say, you know what, I need to have the exact same opportunity, and I am going to work the same hours. I am going to have the same education. I am going to do everything as my male counterpart, so I want the same pay. And if that's what I decide to do as a woman, then I should have the same pay. Now, if I, as a woman or a male, right, if I want time off to take care of my children, if I want time off that normally a coworker doesn't get, there's all these things that come into play. Are we truly equal? Are you truly doing the equal work? Now, as a woman, am saying this, I'm wondering what kind of comments we're going to get about the show. But the point is, are we truly being equal? Or at times, do we want different things in a job? Do we want different benefits? And I think we have to look at that as we talk about equal pay for equal work. Then we have to work within those parameters. Or do we want things a little bit different? And this is what we as women, without being angry, that we can write about, that we can read about, that we can come to an agreement on. And that's just one example. There's other examples in our society.
Oh, yeah.
We see examples where people are writing about racism, ageism, sexism, which are things that we do need to address in our world.
Yeah.
Equities in regards to different countries. We need to address it, but oftentimes the way things are written, we can't get behind a certain stand because it's not clear what the resolve or the resolution is recommended, as you said.
Yeah.
So that's why when we as authors want to share something, how are we truly getting our message across so that our readers can embrace it? Whether it's a romance novel, whether it's an anthology, a biography, an autobiography, depending whatever the genre is, how are we encouraging and getting our readers to embrace our message?
Right. Even bloggers today, and you and I, I consider a blogger an author, today are having the same issues. They're looking for certain keywords to attract their audience, a certain story to attract their audience, or just what's trending to attract their audience. And then they still have to follow the same protocol. And, I follow a lot of bloggers. I know you do, Denise. And I see, the anger that's being written, even in LinkedIn. Some people are angry in LinkedIn when they're writing and talking about certain things. So, we want everybody to understand that if you're going to scream, like I said, it's easy to hate. It's easy to write about hate. But if you want to get your point across about hate, do it in a certain way, a certain storyboard, as I say, because, we write like a storyboard. It's a live storyboard, and you want your audience to come right full circle, get intrigued, and, not put down that blog, or I can't wait for the next issue to come out. And it's very, very challenging, and it's getting your point across without, look, everybody has an opinion. I always say that. It's an opinion. And it's okay. You can get mad at it, or some people will agree. Well, how come you don't agree? It's okay to agree to disagree or agree to disagree, whatever that saying is. So I laugh, but there's also a right way of doing it. And, I get explosive at times. I'm an artist. I'm emotional because I didn't write it down. I didn't take time to walk it off. I just went for the jugular vein. And we're all like that at times. And it will happen, but don't do it in your writing because it is a turnoff to your audience. Even, certain books, from children's books to blogging, to even posting in your Facebook or your social media platforms. So
I think the word you used was attract, and I think I was trying to find that word earlier. And that is true. We want to attract people to read what we write,
yes.
And then to have a relationship with us and to follow us.
Yes.
And for a lot of authors, this is part of their business. This is part of their branding. This is part, what they stand for. And so, Irene, I know you and I support that.
Yes.
In authors, and we want them to be able to attract their readers, their listeners, their audience, right? If they're using an audiobook. And so that's what, over the course of the shows that we're going to provide, we're going to touch on those things. I mean, we've already touched on a lot
sorry, didn't mean to overwhelm.
In our first show, and it'll be interesting to hear the comments of our listeners. And we would love comments and suggestions, and to see if, when we share our perspective, our interpretation, the thoughts that come to mind, because we will do that. A lot of the things that we've shared is because what Irene or I have said, we hear it and we have a response. And that's what your readers do. When you, the author, provide your written word, your readers, in their reading, in their interpretation, then have a thought about it.
Yeah.
And so you hope, as an author, that that thought is congruent, or at least accepting, of the message that you are sharing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I concur.
So, this has been, and I knew that Irene doing a show about authors, that it would be very stimulating and exciting, and that we would have a lot of fun.
Yes.
We do invite those of you who would like to be on our show to connect with us. You can find us in our Facebook group on Global Voice Radio. Join our public group and listen to not only our show, The Author's Message, but also to the other shows that are provided by Global Voice Radio.
Oh, they're fantastic. Have you listened to them? I mean, honestly, everybody, buddy, I said that right. Everyone on that station, and I'm going to be honest with you, okay, I can listen to again, and they all offer, and a lot of them are authors, and they offer wonderful, wonderful advice, from rebirth to death, to wellness, to having fun, to authentic living, to projects and movements, and being yourself, being the best for you. So and Denise, your own personal show that is coming out soon. So I would love everybody to listen to everyone on the station. Not being a little biased here, but but it's all about getting the message out and having you seen, heard, and read. And like I said, and Denise and I've stated this throughout, and everybody has an opinion, but we also have a lot of answers that can help you with a better book, a better direction, a better journey through your writing. And as I say, I'm with the wordsmith, and I idolize her with that because she can look at something and rewrite it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what they meant to say. And it comes out better and clearer. And we're here to help you clean out the mess to your message. So I thank you for listening and hearing me ramble off today. I love to talk, but I also love to get the message across and tell you everything that's going to be happening with Denise and I. And again, I'm honored to be a co-host with number one international author, Denise Joy Thompson. So until next week, everybody, I thank you so much.
So listen to us weekly on Global Voice Radio, the author's message on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You are listening to the author's message with Denise Joy and Irene Pro for lively discussions and guest interviews on authors, publishers, readers, and of course our listeners. Join us every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio.